Take two. Hi everybody and welcome to Matrix Live Season 8 Episode 10, where I'm joined by Robert from the Third Room team. Hi Robert, how's it going?
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, not bad. Is this your first time actually doing Matrix Live?
I think I did one for Element Call a while back, but it's been a while.
Oh, well, I mean, it's only appropriate then that we're using Element Cool to go and do the VoIP side of this. But thanks for coming back on, and it is a pleasure to finally get to geek out about Third Room, because I was trying to trap you to talk about this when you launched Third Room Tech Preview 1, which was, what, 3 weeks ago? Or a month ago
Yep,
now, possibly?
hard to say. I
Yeah,
went on vacation afterwards, and it's been nice getting back and working on all sorts of crazy stuff since. So,
this
yeah,
is a
it's pretty
very,
cool.
very well deserved vacation. I think it was a little bit of a crunch, to say the least, to try to get the tech preview out, but we really, really wanted to demonstrate just how promising the interoperable virtual worlds, or I guess we are going to call it Metaverse, on top of Matrix, is looking, and wanted to do it before other people beat us to the punch. And honestly, having a good deadline is possibly a good reason to try to at least show what the engine was doing. So, what did we tell us about Tech Preview 1? I mean, it's been a couple of weeks, but and a lot of stuff has happened since then. But what did we actually ship?
Yeah, so in my opinion, this is like it's not quite that minimum viable metaverse yet, I think, but it's pretty dang close. We shipped two really polished high quality scenes for you to play around in. Both exported out of Unity. They're just Unity asset packs that we kind of threw together. Got to try my hand at level design for the first time. Hopefully, I did all right. And they use a whole bunch of really innovative rendering techniques, at least for the web. They've been around for a long time, but we were using baked light maps, we're using reflection probes. We're really just trying to get all of the rendering in the web up to the standards of 3D graphics from maybe 5, 6 years ago. We're catching up, but we're catching up really quick. The fact that WebGL2 is shipped across all the different browsers has really allowed us to do a lot in a short period of time. On top of the graphic stuff, we've got portals in there, so now you can go between all of the different rooms across Matrix, and that's super awesome. There are a lot of places out there that allow you to traverse these virtual worlds while maintaining your avatar and like seamlessly traversing these different rooms very easily. And I think Matrix and Third Room as a client like really fits this pattern really well. Anyone can create these different worlds, and you can just go across them really quickly.
Yeah, I
That's
guess we
really
should
nice.
probably take a step back for folks who might not have been keeping up at the back or aren't familiar with Third Room, to kind of explain what the overall idea is. Like, why are we talking about virtual worlds and metaverse stuff in a context of Matrix Live anyway?
Yeah, so um, there's been quite a bit of interest in building the metaverse, and we are working on open, interoperable, decentralized communications. And Matrix really fits really well into this idea of the metaverse, at least in our opinion. And Third Room is a 3D web client that uses Matrix Rooms as kind of like this building block for different virtual worlds. So we store a scene inside of the room, and when you join in, you're using the same tech that we're using right now inside of Element Call to connect up these avatars, have voice chat, and move about the world. So yeah, it's kind of the metaverse built on top of Matrix.
Yeah, I mean, from my side, not many people know that the origin of Matrix really came out of a desire to build something like Third Room. And it all began in a, well, actually, all began rather clichédly at TechCrunch Disrupt Europe in 2013, November, so almost 9 years ago, which is absolutely terrifying, where Amandine and myself went to TechCrunch Disrupt to see what was going on. And at the time, we were working on unified communication as part of Amdocs, going and providing like clones of WhatsApp for big telecoms companies. And after seeing what was going on at TechCrunch Disrupt, we went to this really nice little random bar in Berlin that was like serving tea and was very sedate. And we went to the back of the room and started talking about why Second Life had failed and why it wasn't better, why it was this slightly clunky and sort of weird, awkward social experience, and was there a reason why social experiences in 3D fail? Like, there's a theory that the less bandwidth you have, the better the social interaction. Like, you can build amazing relationships with people over SMS and IRC, and then as you kind of put more detail in, it's almost as if the mystique gets punctured and your imagination has to do less work and you get overloaded. And in the logical extreme, could it be that 3D worlds are fundamentally flawed? Anyway, we wanted to sort of imagine what it would be like to build something like Second Life, and we called it comically Third Life because we're witty geniuses, and sketched out all these designs for Third Life. We were stuck in this bar all day, and as the evening went on, it transferred from being a trendy tea drinking establishment to what can best be described as a lesbian vampire bar where everybody was super goth, and I was the only guy in the bar, and we basically ignored them and just sat there in the back going and sketching out UI ideas about how you would build this thing. But we rapidly got stuck on the problem that how would you communicate on this? Well, clearly it needs to have some kind of open communication protocol. Like IRC isn't going to cut it, XMPP isn't going to work, SIP isn't going to work. So what if there was some kind of decentralized communication protocol that you could build this thing on top of? And that is where Matrix came from. And then having built it, Matrix that is, we decided to go down the kind of element path and doing boring old chat to compete with Slack and Teams and WhatsApp, etc. But the original idea was always to try to do the 3D stuff, and that's why over the years there have been a couple of weird misadventures where we experimented with A-Frame and WebRTC and WebVR, doing 3D video calling back in 2016 and 2017. But it's been super exciting since Robert came on board and we got Element Call out the door to really be able to spend some time focusing on Third Room 2. Hasten to add, this is orthogonal to everything that we do at Element for like the other hundreds of people nowadays working on making sure that Element itself kicks ass. The Third Room team is what, just Robert, you, and Nate and AJ?
Nate and AJ.
So it's literally 3 people have built this entire thing from the ground up, ignoring the dependencies, obviously, and the fact that it builds on matrix and hydrogen and all that jazz. But it's really a bit of a dream, frankly, that we've been able to at last, after only 9 years, go and make that, do that thought experiment to see what that sort of world would look like on top of Matrix. So from my side, this is basically the logical extension of Matrix. So you start off with text chat, you add in voice and video rooms, as we've recently done via Element Call. Then the thing beyond that is to have some kind of spatial canvas where you can build any kind of 2D or 3D, obviously we're starting with 3D experience. And that's what the sort of vision of Third Room is, even though at the moment the experiences you can play with are ones which have kind of been manually built by us. Anyway, sorry for stealing the limelight, Robert. But,
well, that kind of leads us into the next kind of part, which is like looking ahead. So like this first tech preview 1 was really about, okay, let's get this thing out there. Let's see what people can do with it. Just playing around with the things that we built ourselves. But this next tech preview is really about what can everyone else do. This is the creator update, more or less. So already like a week after we launched, we tech preview 1, we launched the Unity exporter. So right now there's a exporter out there. It's open source. It's on GitHub right now, and you can take pretty much any Unity scene out there that you already have. You have to change the materials around a little bit, and then you just hit export, and you should be able to import that directly into Third Room and get it working. There's a whole guide up there on the repository. You can check it out and try it out yourself.
It's really cool to be
Um,
able to piggyback on top of Unity as an editing environment and use all of the assets there, but then kind of bust out of the Unity walled garden into GLTF, which is this open interchange format for 3D assets. Which did you have a part in defining it in the first place, Robert?
um, Kind of. I was on the Kronos GLTF working group for a number of years and have helped out with a number of extensions. So not the core spec, but lots of things relating to it. And surprisingly, the Unity exporter is based on top of a library that I wrote when I was kind of first getting into this whole like VR metaverse space, which is Unity GLTF. And the people over at Needle Tools have really taken that library, which I stopped maintaining a while back when Microsoft bought AltSpace and obtained the code for the library. But they've really done a great job maintaining it. It's totally different thing today than it was then, and now we get to use it and benefit from the work that they've done with the Unity exporter.
This
It's
is the
really
magic of
a
open
nice thing.
source.
Yeah, it's super cool.
It's nice when it works.
Um, and this is the same tool that we're using internally to build out the Terra and the UK City scenes. So what we're using is the same thing that everyone else is going to get. And if they're having issues, then we're having issues. So together, hopefully we can build this thing up and really make it an awesome tool for people to use.
So what I was going to propose is that we can actually jump into Third Room and possibly kill the audio on Element Cool and see whether what happens there. So some people might not have played with it. Some people are going, "Oh, Metaverse! Why is Matrix doing Metaverse?" And we should just go and show them how cool it is. So I've already got it open on a kind of new browser tab. So let's hope that the whole onboarding works. So this is what you see if you go to thirdroom.io, and we've got a little video, and we've got the Get Started button, and then a massive blog post which I wrote that Robert then frantically edited down, which I recommend you probably don't read unless you're really, really interested in the fine detail. But if you hit the Get Started button here, this is really interesting. That for Third Room, we're using OpenID Connect as the entire authentication system. So this is where Matrix is going in general in the future, and this is the first app that we have which has no or almost no native Matrix authentication. All of the auth is actually being handled by Keycloak. So what you're looking at here almost is a kind of portal that jumps you into Keycloak, and I could log into Third Room here, I could log into a different server like matrix.org. So on matrix.org, for instance, we haven't got an IDC set up, so I could like log into this as one of my normal accounts. But in thirdroom.io, it looks up and sees, oh look, I can either log in as a user, or I can even do guest via IDC. So for simplicity, I'm just going to click continue as guest, tell it that I'm not a robot, say imaginatively that I'm called Matthew, hit continue, accept the T's and C's, which I obviously read. Then you get a permission dialog from Keycloak, and all of this is happening in Keycloak, by the way, even though it looks aesthetically like Third Room, giving the Third Room the Third Room app permission to access my thirdroom.io matrix account. And obviously this is a bit redundant because I'm just logging in on Third Room server with the Third Room client, but if I was logging into a different server, I'm now explicitly giving it access to get at my matrix account. So I'm going to hit allow, and then I'm in. Sorry, Robert, we'll be back with you in a second. So here I am in the kind of Virgin Third Room client. Going to click on the Homeworld. So this is a world which has automatically been generated for me. Robert, how is that happening? Is that being done server side, or is that the client creating a default room for me?
It's all the client side. So your client is creating something that uses a default scene that we have set in a per client basis. And then the client allows us to update that Homeworld as we release new updates to that Homeworld. So hopefully over time, you're going to get more things that you can do inside of your Homeworld. And if you don't like your Homeworld, you can swap it out for something that you like more.
Very cool. So I'm going to hit enter on the Homeworld. I'm going to give Third Room access to my microphone. And hopefully you can hear that there is some ambient audio going on. And we've got this little beautiful overlay from AJ. And AJ, by the way, does all of the kind of web user interface on Third Room. Welcoming you to your Homeworld and giving you the instructions of WASD to run around, shift to run, space to jump, 1 to 6 to spawn objects, blah, blah, blah. So I hit finish on that, and then rapidly I'm going to go and find Robert. Where do you want to meet Robert? Shall we go to...
shoot me a link.
Yeah, well, no, let's just meet in Terra 1. So I'm going over
Okay.
to a portal over here, and I'm going to click on Terra 1. And it looks suspiciously similar, frankly, to your Homeworld, but this at least is a shared space where other people can hang out. And hopefully Robert will join me there. When you do, I'll go and mute the audio in Element Cool. Where are you? The spawn point is over here. Oh, where are you? Oh, hello.
Hey.
Ha! Fancy meeting you here. And you've already gone and muted your audio, actually. So, now, well, how should we demonstrate this? You can see we've got an overlay here. You can see Robert running around, or at least, oh, there he goes. Go and chase him. Oh, what's that? Okay, so he's gone and created a crate and has picked it up. Jumping on it. Creating more crates. Jumping some more. And even bigger crates. Ooh. But you're not going to go up on the roof. And you're now going to, like, try to...
yeah.
Okay, so eagle-eyed listeners, or eagle-eared listeners, I should say, might notice we've got spatial audio. If you say stuff, Robert.
Yep. Hey, how's it going?
I'm going to run around you.
Me as I move around, yeah.
Keep going.
I'm still talking.
There we go. So, yeah, basically we've got spatially positioned 3D audio going on, which is super cool. It's the same stuff that we also added into Element Cool. And we've got the physics engine. I can go and pick up the large crate, this massive thing that Robert has there, and knock everything over, throw it at him, like so. Oh, and he's gone and picked it up too, moved it out the way. I can go and, like, throw a glitter globe at him. So this is a little mirror probe that we use to test the reflections. And as we wander around, the reflection will change as you go through different zones. Unfortunately, we don't have ray tracing in this yet, so we can't actually see Robert being properly reflected around.
Yeah, perhaps one day when we get Web GPU API, we can start to do some of that.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that'd be really cool. So yeah, this is basically the physics engine. So how's the physics working? Is this being executed on the server, or where?
So it's client side right now. All of us, each peer is like executing the same physics code. It's using a library called Rapier, which is a Rust-based physics engine that we're running in WebAssembly. And yeah, it's super fast. We're running it on a separate thread from our rendering, so we can keep the physics running really fast, even when we have tons of objects. And the GPU thread can continue submitting stuff and rendering real fast.
Very cool. So what else should we show everybody? I guess we should look at the frame rate. And so I've just turned on the stats with Control-Shift-S, and it seems to be sitting at a pretty solid 60 frames a second for me. Sometimes it goes up to 120. What's that all about?
We'll have that sorted out in like a near PR. There's something that averages it out, and we just haven't merged it yet. But that's a good point. This is going to come with some graphics quality improvements. Basically, we're supporting this like medium quality mode right now, where we have baked lighting and reflection probes, and we actually have bloom. If you look at things that are really bright, you'll see like a little halo surrounding it. And that's super nice, but it comes at a performance cost, especially on things with like integrated graphics cards and things like that. So you're going to want to be able to turn that off. We have a PR that's coming that should land fairly soon. That'll let you pick either a low video quality mode, medium, which is what we have today, and a high. And the low will turn off post-processing, and basically just that alone will save you a whole bunch of resources on those low-end devices. And high, we're going to be able to do more with real-time shadows for things. So we might have something that's kind of a faked real-time shadow, like just blobs appearing under your avatars in the medium mode, and in the high mode, it'll be full-on real-time shadows for all that. And with that, we'll also fix the FPS meter. That's in that PR.
Yeah, I think it might actually be going up to 120 FPS for real, though. At the moment, I've dropped mine down to 1080p, and I realise that might be why it's locked to 60 frames. Or do you reckon that it's lying?
It's whatever your monitor's refresh rate.
Yeah, so my monitor will be ProMotion, I guess, on the dynamic thing on a recent M1 Max.
Oh,
so I think
it actually can change. Yeah, so if it's ProMotion, it can go up and down.
Yeah, it's been running. This is the first time I've seen it as low as 60, which is just crazy for something that is running full screen res. I mean, here I guess I'm in 1080p because I'm recording the video for YouTube, but it's still pretty good. So what are stale frames? Are they drop frames effectively?
Okay, so we are running on 2 different threads, and basically it uses this concept called the triple buffer, which
Hmm.
is we've got one that's being used by the game thread at all times, we've got another one that's being used by the render thread at all times, and then we have one that can be used as like a swap. So when the game thread is done, it's going to switch over to the other game thread, and the game thread buffer, and the render thread is just going to pull the most recent one at all times. The stale frame is whenever the render thread doesn't have a updated game buffer to render with.
Okay, so it's
So,
not like a drop visual frame, it's kind of a drop between the game buffer and the render buffer.
yep. And when we don't have anything new to render, we're interpolating towards the thing that we last got. So it's, yeah, it can work really well when you are CPU bound, um, because we can run the game thread at a lower rate than your refresh rate. So if you're running at a 240 hertz monitor, we can still run that game thread and all your physics at 60 hertz, and your render thread can go as fast as 240 hertz.
That is
Um,
very cool and will be really important for VR, presumably, where we just want to be as responsive as possible on
yeah,
the sort of visuals, but it doesn't matter if the game thread is only running at 60 hertz clock.
except for your camera, but we're working through ways to mitigate those sorts of things. Yeah, it'll work out pretty well for VR as well.
And if I just go and look at the... So yeah, I mean, this isn't using much CPU at all. In fact, it's...
No,
no, given that I've
it's
got
almost
Element Cool
entirely
running...
GPU bound right now.
Yeah, but even then, my comp's only running at 31 degrees C, which is cool if if I'm doing GPU stuff. Honestly, I think I'm cheating by doing this at 1080p. I can't believe we're in a world where 1080p is considered a kind of easy resolution to render at. Shall we run over to UK City just because it's getting
Yeah, let's
boring
do it.
sitting here in Terra?
Here, I'll
So you go over to the portal, you click on the portal, and then badunk, in we go. Ooh. Right. Now, there are multiple spawn points here, so I wonder where Robert is. Oh, there he is. Hello.
over here. Hey.
Hey, fancy seeing you there. Ah, look at those beautiful... Nate spent so long getting the tooltips for people's names right, or the name tags, I should say, not the tooltips. But it was a beautiful kind of hero shot of your tooltip coming in. Shouldn't we have speaker feedback when you talk, or am I just
There is.
missing
There's
it?
just a little blue
Oh, yes, so there
radius
is.
around the thing. It's a little hard to see. We might have to increase the visibility of
Yeah,
that a
we
little
should
bit.
make it more of a throbber or something. So,
Yeah.
what's going on with this scene? Looks like we're in London-ish.
Yep. It's the most American view of London ever, but I haven't been there since I was a kid, but hopefully we can change that soon. Um, it's kind of a demo. This is the first scene that we created, and it's kind of showing off instancing. So if you look at the facades of all these buildings, you'll notice there's a lot of repeating patterns over here. Well, that's using instance rendering to paint all these different blocks in one draw call. So it's saving a whole bunch of GPU resources by being able to do that. However, all the lighting that you're seeing, all the shadows and stuff like that, those are all baked. And one thing that 3JS doesn't support is kind of mixing and matching light maps and instancing at the same time. So we made a little bit of a hack to get that in there, and then we added our reflection probes as well. So as I'm spawning cubes, if it's in the shadow, well, then it works just all right. This one over here isn't going to work super well, but if I come over here, then there's a reflection probe over there, and you can see it's like the lighting's changing as you move in and out of the shadow. As we get light probes, that'll get even more accurate because we'll have more points to sample from, and we'll be able to say, oh, well, this is in the shadow and this is not in the shadow, versus right now what we're just doing is we're using like an image-based lighting technique to say, here's the reflections that this thing is going to have within this zone.
I guess that should be
So
even more obvious with the mirror probes.
yeah,
I hadn't actually
you'll see
played
it
with mirror probes,
switch.
so let me go and grab that. Oh yeah, as you go after it, you can see it's flickering a bit
Yeah.
as it's changing in the different environments. If I pick it up and run around, this is a good trick to see what is happening with the reflections.
It'll be a
Massive.
good test of my level design too, because I'm sure there's places where the reflections
Oops.
don't really make a
I
whole lot.
literally just ran into a lamppost. Yeah, I'm not seeing a massive amount of change on that, but
Yep.
perhaps.
There's only, I think there's 16 or 12 in this environment,
Okay.
and they're kind of like one for this entire street over here. So it just tries to capture the incoming light for a pretty good section of this. But when we get light probes in there, it'll start factoring the brightness for all the different nooks and crannies of this.
Very cool. I just realised it's something that I don't think even if you press question mark, yeah, it gives you the instructions here, but none. Oh, it does tell you. It's just hidden out of sight that fly mode is B. I don't know how many people have actually discovered fly mode, but if you press B like this, then you can weirdly enough fly. Look at Robert doing his whole Superman thing. In fact, it's more of a Spider-Man pose to be honest, but it's. So you can see, unfortunately, well, first of all, you can see the bloom over on the left there. Can you see that by the roof, it all goes a little bit fuzzy around the top because of the light bleeding in. But then, unfortunately, if we keep going up, the illusion is going to collapse and we have our big Dark City Inception moment and can see that actually our map here has boundaries, which is a bit of a shame. It's just a single GLTF asset.
Well, you can see where we're cutting costs to make this thing render really well. But there will be other changes that we can make, such as occlusion culling and zone-based loading that allow us to do much larger environments and avoid rendering things all at once.
It does look very cool, though. Have we changed the audio drop-off, by the way? It seems much easier to talk at the moment.
No, I'm just purposely staying pretty close to you.
Okay. Awesome. Right, where else should we go? Should we go to Mars? I think that might be an obvious one
Yeah,
to
so
follow
that's
on.
way over in that street over there.
Yeah, I'm just going to fly through this building just because I can. Bang! And down here is our portal over to Mars. Right, let's hop in. Gee, can you see it's Mars? Okay, so here we are. Have we got audio?
Yep.
Excellent. So, God, this is an interesting one because this is totally, in some ways, it's a totally different engine. Do you want to tell us what's going on?
Yeah, so the people over at NASA developed this really cool renderer for 3JS called the 3D Tiles renderer. And this 3D Tiles format is also kind of related to GLTF. It takes a couple different specifications and kind of mashes them together. And it allows you to do progressive loading of huge amounts of content. So we can do big data visualization sets inside here, not just 3D content for geometry, but also overlaying like data sets and heat maps and point clouds and all sorts of different things. So we basically just got this for free. We slapped it in here. We added multiplayer with Third Room, and now you can explore massive data sets inside of Third Room.
Yeah,
Um,
that is super cool. So if I fly back, you can see the photos of the tracks of the various Mars little Curiosity robot, which has taken these photos and the slightly weird angles that you get as a result. You can see the kind of edges of the square tiles that make up the 3D tiles. If we go through the floor, because we haven't turned on occluding, and we ignore the random atmospherics in here, and you look up, then you can see, well, we can see Robert flying around up there, but you can actually see the grid lines of the 3D assets and the fact that they tile with different levels of resolution as you get closer to them like that. In fact, you can really clearly see the progressive loading. The further away you go, the bigger the tiles. In fact, it's a really cool demo. I hadn't thought of doing that before. And then as you go in again, you get closer, then it loads in more tiles in order to get more detail. So you can literally see the 3D tile engine running as it goes. Now, if anybody has access to a really good 3D tile dataset, we would love to plug it into this, because as fun as Mars is, imagine if this was a cityscape or something, it could be Google Street View, the entire dataset. So we really want to play with that as well.
we've barely pushed this yet. Like this is pretty easy to render right now, and it would be really cool to have something that really pushes it. Maybe someone can get us the Matrix Unreal 5 demo. We'll try it out here.
Yeah, if anybody on the Warner Brothers or the Unreal team want to actually have Matrix happening in Matrix, then we would love to have that data set and the progressive generated AI stuff that goes with it. Right, what else should we show off? Well, we should show off like the Matrix integration. So
Yep.
if I hit enter at this point, you can see then there's a whole bunch of fairly boring people joining and leaving, people saying hello, not much happening here on Mars. But if I were to go over to boring old element and literally join Mars on thirdroom.dev, I think is where that room is. Then you've got Robert there saying, "Hey, Matrix Live," and I can say, "Hi, Robert from Element," because it's just a plain old Matrix room under it all. And if I go back, you can see, and I scroll down, you've got Robert saying Matrix Live, me saying, "Hi, Robert," and if I go and close the overlay and Robert says something, then it should pop up as a little notification. No pressure, Robert. Hey, there we go. So if I bring the overlay, the rooms back up here, you can see the very recent changes that we can now see who's in the world in the room list. And this is all powered by the Hydrogen Matrix SDK because we wanted to use the lightest weight Matrix stuff possible so we could have all the time available for messing around in 3D. And this in the end, it is just a normal Matrix client. So I could go and create worlds or join them manually from here. I could look at friends. I could direct message somebody. I could say I want to direct message Robert. It's given me suggestions. And I clicked on you, and it's hopefully gone and set a hey, Robert, are you out there? Let's hope it picked the right account. I think it did.
I have like 3 accounts, so
Oh,
might not
okay,
be.
well, basically, you've got a DM invite somewhere for me showing off that we've got this kind of LinkedIn style chatterbox UI so that I can also keep track of my DMs with people whilst I'm running around in world. What else can we show off? I'm sure we're forgetting some stuff. Well, what's new? What's the recent stuff since TP1?
Yep. So I talked a little bit about the Unity exporter. We went through a little bit of just the user experience when you're going through portals, so that's nice. You load a lot faster. It's much more seamless. We fixed a bug with loading between those worlds. Right now, it's using a whole lot less memory than it was a couple days ago, so that's super nice. That loading screen when you're going through portals is actually showing you a little bit about who created the world. We want to add some attribution information for the different scene creators. That's going to be super helpful when people are creating their own scenes, so that if you use someone else's scene, you're still properly giving attribution to the people who created it in the first place. You went through being able to see people in the different worlds that even when you're not in the world. So that's super nice. Like if you are not, if you're just in your home world and you want to go find out, okay, well, where is everyone right now? You can just scan the list of worlds and go find people to hang out with. So
And
that's
what
nice.
about avatars? Because I mean, you're looking very beautiful in pink and
Yeah.
suspiciously like the Mixamo Xbot. But when are we going to get custom avatars?
So we're trying to get it in through this tech preview. So um, we have support for this one Mixamo model, but we built out a system underneath it that's really applicable to pretty much anything that resembles this avatar skeleton. And there's this standard that's based on top of GLTF called VRM. And it's getting a lot of traction really quickly, particularly in Japan, where it's used for Vocaloids, and they basically use it for VTubers and things like that. And so it's gotten really popular, but a whole bunch of different virtual world platforms are adopting it as well. And it helps that it's based on top of GLTF. So we're trying to add support for that within this release, and then you'll be able to use these VRM avatars across different platforms and create them inside of Unity, Blender, and a bunch of other different tools out there, as well as get them from different sources out there. Um, the VR chat community likes using Booth, and there's this other site called VRroid. Yeah, there's a whole bunch of different tools that will help out in that ecosystem.
Shall we switch back to Element Cool because it's getting weird looking at you hovering at me in over Mars. So I'm gonna
Over Mars, yeah.
I'm gonna shut down third room there and come back here. Have we still got audio?
Yep, should.
Excellent. So there's probably one final thing that we should talk about, and I know, putting you on the spot, if you hypothetically wanted to screen share and show some of the UGC work that's going on, because I mean, this is brand new as of yesterday, and I already kind of spoiled the story by flapping my mouth at the journalist at the News Stack to tell them all about the amazing stuff going on there. But for me, this is probably almost as exciting as when we first got the engine running in the first place. And like, there have been two big moments for me: going into a room, a world, and discovering a complete random wandering around playing with the physics engine and just having a conversation with him, which was inexplicably magical. And then what happened yesterday with the user generated content.
Yeah, so here, let me share my screen, and it's that one. Yes. All right, can you see that?
Yep.
Cool. So here we got a Spinny Cube, but it is controlled by a piece of JavaScript that's running inside the client, and it's sandboxed from the rest of the browser, as in, like, it doesn't have access to your private messages. It is completely isolated from everything else, and you can kind of run scripts that can interact with the 3D world. So this is part of one of our bigger features for this release, which is user-generated content scripting, which will be available for JavaScript and as well as any language that can compile down to WebAssembly. So we're defining a API that allows you to create objects, kind of go through the objects in a GLTF and modify them, and you'll have access to creating new meshes, adding physics properties, modifying materials, quite a few different things. And we hope that this allows you to create much richer experiences than the few little interactions that we've added so far. And we'll be building on this in subsequent updates to Third Room, but we're trying to get this out for people to play with as soon as possible.
I think that might be the most modest and understated sort of description of of the importance of user-generated content. Like, I mean, from my perspective, in Matrix terms, Matrix has been around for 8 years now, and we have never had the ability to run client-side scripts. Like, okay, you can have a random Matrix client that you can hack on and add a feature to, and perhaps you're in WeChat and you can load some Python or some Lua or something, but it's in this instance, we're picking up the script, which is going to be defined in the matrix room alongside the GLTF assets itself. And is that literally the script we were looking at?
Yeah, that's it. So it's just a little tiny piece of JavaScript. There's also one that I'm starting to work on for Rust, and yeah, it's just create a node, position it, and then rotate it. We've got this update event. This is pretty similar if you've written like a web worker or something like that. There's like an on message hook, and here we've got an on update. You get a delta time just like you get in the request animation frame API, and this web scene graph or web SG is what we're doing right now. Namespace has all of the API methods for interfacing with a GLTF document.
I'm hoping this is like the beginning of an entirely new age. Like, people already know about WebRTC, they know about WebAssembly, they know about web transport, web audio. Now you saw web scene graphs for the very first time. Obviously, nothing to do with W3C yet, but it's at least the idea that we define a scene graph API that can be accessed from WebAssembly. And even though this is JavaScript, this isn't running in the normal V8 JavaScript virtual machine in the browser. It's running in a sandbox in the scripting runtime using QuickJS.
Yeah, this is a bit nasty. This is just pure C that we're compiling with them scripting to WebAssembly, but it's using QuickJS, and here we're like defining the basic API that we have for running this little snippet of code. We've got a long ways to go. I've got console logging and a basic hook for update and the web scene graph hook itself. We're talking with people within the Open Metaverse Interoperability group on how to best define this so that we can work well with other platforms as well. So if other people are looking to add user-generated content scripting, they should reach out to us. But yeah, we're hoping this could be an entry point into making interactive GLTF documents and making them portal across different platforms.
I mean, this is, from my perspective, mind blowing that literally we've got a sandbox here for doing any kind of scripting that you pick up from the contents of the room. So you don't need to run a bot now in Matrix. You would not need to run it server side. You wouldn't need to get a VM and a VPS on DigitalOcean and run your node stack. Instead, somebody can just put it in the room, and within the careful constraints of that sandbox, off it goes. And obviously, in third room, you would use it to define physics, create objects, create a game, implement Figma, implement a UI editor, whatever it might happen to be. In fact, we should have shown the editor in third room, but I guess we've almost run out of time. I don't know, it reminds me of when JavaScript first got added to Netscape, and at the risk of really painfully showing my age, suffice it to say that I was enthusiastically using like Mosaic on my Silicon Graphics machines, then using Netscape 1, and then when Netscape 3, it was Netscape 2, I think, added JavaScript, came along, and it was like, what is this voodoo? One minute we have a document format, HTML, and then we've got a programming language that you embed in it. What wizardry is this? And got really excited about how this was going to create the dynamic web, and then it just didn't happen for 10 years. But it's almost the same feeling here, that we can now finally define scripting inside Matrix, which runs in a sandbox that can do anything you like, but is then executed client side on the people participating in the room. So I cannot wait to port the random game that I was working on at the beginning of the third room into this and see how well it works. It's the beginning of a new age. Anyway, you've got a hard stop 5 minutes ago, right?
Yep.
Sorry. Thanks, Robert, for taking time to talk us through and give us a VIP tour of Third Room. And serious congrats to you and Nate and AJ for building this incredible Metaverse client on a shoestring on top of Matrix. And wait to see Tech Preview 2 coming to a GitHub near you sometime soon.
Thanks so much, and super excited to see where we go from here.
Awesome. See ya.
See ya.